supplementary powers. But Article 175(2) is not to be interpreted in isolation. It has to be read and interpreted along with Article 142A and the entries in the legislative list. Under entry 55 of the federal list, federal legislature is competent to make laws regarding jurisdiction and powers of all courts except Supreme Court with respect to any of the matters in such list. The other part of the entries makes the federal legislature competent to make laws enlargement of the Supreme Court and conferring thereon the supplementary powers with the proviso that this is to ascend is expressly authorized or under the Constitution. Powers and jurisdiction conferred on the Supreme Court by the Constitution can neither be inferred with or varied or taken away by legislature. However, jurisdiction of the Supreme Court can be enlarged and supplementary powers can be conferred on the Supreme Court by law in view of Article 175(2) of the Constitution, and entry 55 read with Article 142A of the Constitution leaves no doubt that such enlargement of the jurisdiction and conferment of supplementary power can only be done through law made by federal.
So this is the point, I think. This explains the context of what that sentence says, because what this passage is telling us is that the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court can be enlarged. 175(2) does not do that, but for that there must be validly enacted law, for which we have to look not to 175(2) but to entry 55 read with Article 142A. So this is the context.
142A says you look at the entry.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
The two have to be read together.
Yes.
But what this passage makes clear is that 175(2) is not a standalone power in jurisdiction, because at the beginning of this para, the Supreme Court gives the example, if that were so, which is what I also put to you, then law could include provincial law, and therefore a province could say, well, we enlarge the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is saying, no, that is not correct. That 175(2) is not independent. All that it tells us is, yes, jurisdiction can be conferred on any court, including the Supreme Court by law, but that law has to be 55 and 142.
142A. There is no other third provision which is cited for the Competition Act.
लेकिन आप जो कह रहे हैं ना, जो आप जो उस जुमले को जो पढ़ रहे हैं at page 293 पे, as though that is intending to give a standalone competence in terms of 152, I don't think that's correct.
If I go along with that, actually, so therefore, I don't understand how Competition Commission can confer a jurisdiction on the Supreme Court.
That's a big problem.
Unless it cannot, because it has to be, we have to pass through the same test as we have to pass today, that is expressly authorized or by or under the Constitution. So if 175 is out, then where is that expressed for, even for competition, election, or the other four different statutes?
There is also a law, Faisal Siddiqui Sahab, there is also a law, Newspaper Employees Condition of Service Act 1973. in which also the appeal is provided direct to the Supreme Court. There is no appeal in the High Court, but it is against the conviction awarded by the Implementation Tribunal. So this is also direct appeal under Section 13A of the Newspaper Employees Condition of Service Act 1973. So competition, newspaper employees, contempt of court. There are three laws at least.
Yes, since nobody has given us the background, there's a competition commission has given authority to the Supreme Court or the Act?
No, the Act. There is a provision, Section 44.
And the argument from the other side is, since it is a provincial act, it cannot confer such jurisdiction. Is this the argument?
सर मैं हाई कोर्ट में नहीं था इसलिए मैं ज्यादा कहना नहीं चाहता
क्या जजमेंट में है उससे
उधर एक